Live. This is This Week in Lumber. Matt Beamer is taking a little well-needed rest. I saw him a couple weeks ago, Greg, over in Portland. He is, I think he's maybe at home or skiing. I'm not sure. Anyway, it's well-deserved whatever he's doing. So this is probably our 40th installment of This Week in Lumber. Greg, you're going to be uh, taking off into your second office.
The Pacific office opens next week. Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yep.
I love the Pacific office. So
Yep.
we've got a big week to talk about. I mean, crazy last week, short week. One of the young guys in the office was asking me if it's usually slow. It was busy. This week was busy. One for the ages, man. Second one for the ages, right? So what's your thought on what's going on this week so far?
I mean, it's the market's just super strong. Business is great. Weather's not impacting end use consumption at all. Mills for the most part have got their feet up and are looking to big numbers for next year. I mean, we're starting off, pretty much 4-digit numbers across the board. It's a great time to be in the lumber business across the board.
Here's a crazy thing. We've
your
done
camera,
a lot.
I see. All I see is your torso, Ash. Oh, there you go. Yeah,
there we go.
I mean, get the headshot in there.
We've done a lot of trades, matches on the platform, and as I chat with people, there doesn't seem to be any pushback. I mean, people are almost accepting these numbers like crazy. I guess the one thing, has it flowed through yet to the end use, the pricing?
Certainly there's a lag, right? And I think, historically, when you get the market running, all the participants are pretty smart. And so everybody knows, I mean, hey, you had front page of the Wall Street Journal last week was about lumber prices being up 100% in the last month. And they're up another, 10%, 10 or 15% from there. So, everybody across the board is trying to lock down lumber for as, far out as they can. That's for sure. And I think you pull some business forward, clearly.
Yeah, no doubt. So what I wanted to do is, I think since we have a short week, last week and this week, I wanted to introduce our guest, and we'll start right there if that makes sense. So and once I introduce him first, Nick can bring him in. So I'm excited to have our guest on. Good afternoon, Bill Jazier. Good to see you, man. Kip Fotheringham has been in the industry. We probably started somewhere around the same time. I consider him a good friend and an industry acquaintance also. Kip started out at Welco Lumber, worked his way up through, was at Conifex, and was a director of sales and marketing at Hampton, and now his, I guess, official title, he can say it, he's an independent trader. Everywhere Kip has been, he supported me, and not only supported me, I've leaned on him for information, for validation on some certain things, for challenging me on certain things, and I mean, it's great. We've spent time together at a lot of industry events. I mean, Kip was very active in NOLA, and as you know, Greg, as you have been, and Kip lives in Vancouver. Hobbies hockey. I think is he still a scratch golfer? I'm not sure, but don't let him tell you any different if you're betting him. So let's bring Kip.
Where is he? Bring him in. Let's go.
Hey, Kip, did we get that right?
I'm gonna still need a few strokes from you, Ash. It's called trading.
Well, so look at Kip. I've got you kind of listed as independent trader now. I mean, you've got a great history of everything you've done in the business. I mean, you've forgotten more than people know about it. Get us up to speed on what you're doing now.
Yeah. Okay. So I basically do a lot of futures and derivatives trading, and I have my trading company QLL, and named after my 3 kids, Quinn, Lauren, and Lachlan. And I've been doing that for 3 years, and it's been a pretty good 3 years to be in the futures trading business. That's for sure.
Whew, man, you know what, Kip? Did you ever believe, with like all the years that we were in this business, that the last 3 years would have been like what we've seen? It's just been wild, hasn't it?
It's like, I've been doing this for 30 years, and 27 of the years you had a commodity that was, most of the time $200 to $400. And, if print went up $13 in a week, it was like, wow, that was a move. Now we've reset to a higher price, a lot higher price. And I believe that when commodities break out of a decade or more than 1 decade price, and they reset to a higher number, and everybody kind of gets used to it. And the first time it takes a little while, but if you think about it, the guy goes into Home Depot and he's got a coffee in his right hand that costs $5 from Starbucks, and he picks up a 2x4 8-foot stud that costs $4.50. Which of those is more effort was put into producing? Like, it just takes people a little while to get used to that stuff, and I think they are now. People are comfortable.
I mean, the other thing,
$1,000
Kip,
lumber.
though, is that all commodities, it doesn't matter what it is, all commodities tend to gravitate to the cost of production. And, you have periods of time when you're above the cost of production, which incents new production, changes in usage, substitution, and then you have periods where the prices are below the cost of production, which you lose production, and you grow demand, whether it's nationally or internationally.
Yeah, the one thing I would say, and I'm speaking specifically on the spruce side, is the ability to increase production in all of our careers was always there, right? They just put on extra shifts and bring in more trees, and anytime the price got too high, they would kill it. But now I don't believe that's possible. And part of the reason is, if you look at the last 3 years, obviously the pricing is way above the mean. The shipments and the production in Canada, the shipments to the US have remained flat. And that's actually a bit of a misnomer, because if you look at like 2013, we produced 13 billion feet in BC, and we shipped 3 billion to China. So now we're going to produce 10 billion feet this year, and we're going to ship 700 million to China. So we've kind of robbed Peter to pay Paul. So it looks like our production is flat the last 3 years. When you look at the shipments to the US, it's not. It's going down, and I believe it's going to go down quite a bit more with some of the things that are going on in BC, regardless of price. I mean,
let's talk about some of those, Kip, like the things going on in BC. We had that announcement 2 months ago that, in my opinion, you and I talked about it for a half an hour the other night, which was good, was kind of confusing to a layman just reading it, right? When you first read it, it was like, holy shit, there's not going to be any more production in BC. Well, so there was, everybody looked at it out of 2 lenses, extreme to both directions, right? Maybe can you kind of drill that down for us and maybe tell us what you're seeing there?
Yeah, sure. So basically what happened is on November 2nd, the provincial government said that they're going to increase the amount of old growth forest, that you can't log in, you can't go through it to if you had AAC on the other side. And it works out, the numbers are, it's not something that you can, part of it, it's a 2-year deferral, so that logging is completely stopped. They want the bigger companies to spend more time, working with the indigenous people. That's going to take time. But in the meantime, if you look at BC, big fat round numbers, 10 billion of production. 75% of that is tenure given to the big mills, who you all know, and 25% of that is timber sales from the BC government. And they auction it just exactly like it sounds. A third of that just got taken away and is old growth. So, the rough and dirty number is that's 8% of the production in BC, 10 billion feet. That's 800 million feet that stopped on November 2nd, Tuesday. It's gone. Cannot log it. Whether and you might have even had a logging crew in there. You might have the roads built. It doesn't matter. It's stopped. So it is going to have an effect. How much of that the bigger mills can work with the natives to get it done? That's definitely possible, but it's not going to be quick, and it's not going to be 100%.
So
we're going to
one of the
lose.
things that I'm
Go
already
ahead.
seeing as a result of that is that, it used to be that BC lumber penetrated the entire U.S. all the way down into the Southeast, and increasingly I see that, BC lumber production, it gets to Chicago and it gets down to Texas, but other than, some specialty, maybe some long links and whatnot, it doesn't get to the Southeast any longer. Like that whole section of the country is not dominated by BC lumber like it used to be.
No,
It's yeah.
Well, we're going to realistically. I mean, there's a bunch of annual allowable cuts still coming through that are going to be less. There's this caribou migration where they're just going to ban logging in certain areas to try and preserve the caribou, and then the old growth. You put that all together, we're going to lose 1.5 billion feet. The math's pretty simple. We produce 10 billion feet. We have 50 mills, roughly. That's 200 million feet of mills. So we're going to lose 6 or 7 mills. It's like that's just going to happen. Has to happen, and it will happen, and it's probably going to happen, this year or maybe early next year.
So at the end of every year, the amount of lumber that is consumed in the U.S. is a combination of Canada, U.S. production, and other offshore inputs, and they always equal out, right? I mean, you can't consume more than is available to the market, quote unquote. And I guess I'm always trying to look at, okay, so where's the reset here? If we go commodity prices all gravitate to the cost of production, what is that cost of production? And obviously it's significantly different in BC than it is in Eastern Canada, Pacific Northwest, Southern US. What are those numbers look like now, to kind of get an idea, as you talked about before. There's a reset, right? So we're not going to go back to $200 lumber ever again, right? Is the new low going to be 400? Is it going to be 600? What is that number?
Well, BC is the highest labor cost and highest fiber cost in the world. So in the last 2 years, you've seen the major companies invest $10 billion everywhere but BC. So, we all know there's going to be more yellow pine, and there's going to be less spruce from Canada, mainly because of BC. So yellow pine is going to have to go in areas it doesn't go. It's going into Canada now, and I'm not a huge believer that all these mills that are announced, and especially the greenfield ones, how difficult it's going to be to get them up and running, mainly because of personnel. You need a lot of truck drivers, and you need sophisticated people to work in the mill. You put in auto graders and that takes a skill level, and I'm not sure that those people are available to increase yellow pine 3 billion board feet. I think it's going to be way tougher than people think for the greenfield mills.
Yeah, but we all know that at the end of the day, price is the final arbiter. And at a price, it's amazing how innovative people can be in terms of finding ways to increase production. And then I guess my other question is, if you think back on last year, like last spring, when the market ran up, that final run up from like 1,000 to 1,700, what ultimately turned the market was demand destruction. The prices were high enough where we delayed demand or we eliminated demand, in particular relative to the home center business. The prices at home centers just got so high that people said, well, forget it, I'm going to delay that project. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering now I'm wondering where that number is now. I mean, Ashley and I were talking a little bit before, and the current number is $1,100, $1,200, $1,300. Doesn't seem to phase anybody right now. And to you and I, we're like going, what? The first time 2x4 16s hit 1,000, I was like, oh wow, we'll never see that number again.
Well,
Yeah.
it's interesting, Greg and Kip. I was talking to a trader we all know yesterday, and his point
How
was,
well do we know him, Ashley? Do we know him really well?
I could say you could play three guesses and you know who it is. So I'm not gonna. He's related to Kevin. He's related to Kevin Bacon.
How many places removed is he?
Well, so he's he's still bullish on the market, but he's kind of tempered his spec stuff, right? Because maybe you can confirm this, Greg. There's a bunch of reloads that are kind of embargoed now, especially in Texas, because they have so much wood in them. It's now look at and at first I thought it was multifamily. We had been talking about this for a while, that they had been pre-buying a lot of stuff. Part of it is he said no, it's a lot of speculative business. A lot of people bought pine, bought spruce. I mean, people are always spec buying it. So I'm not saying anything's different, but
Ashley,
Yeah.
when the market goes up,
yeah,
it doesn't matter how much lumber you have. You do
It's
not
never
have
enough.
enough. You don't.
yeah.
Doesn't
So
matter.
my question is, we've run pretty hard. People don't have any fear right now, from what I see. I'm hearing stuff that reloads are full. I think if you took a census of the market, it's 90% bullish. So, Greg, you guys and
We probably need to put another poll out and check bullish sentiment.
well, that's that would be POLL, right? So so my question is, markets always, and I don't know the answer to this. Markets always do what hurt the most amount of people the most. Is that going up at this point or going down?
Great question, Kip. What are you thinking?
Well, there's two mills that I was talking to yesterday, Canadian mills, and they do a fair amount of wholesale business, because some of them don't, as we know. And I said, I only have one question. How many TBAs do you have in your deck? They both said the same thing. None. So it's hard for the market to fall when everything that guys have bought is destined.
But how far do they have an order file? How much have they not sold? I guess is my question.
Well,
too,
I mean, and to that point, I mean, I know exactly what you're saying, Kip. But back to Ashley's point, and this is what I'm trying to gauge is, it is true. I mean, reloads up and down, and I only know east of Chicago. I don't know anything about the west, but I know in the east, every reload is jam-packed full. Some will not accept any more product. I mean, part of that started in, really August, September, October, when multifamily guys were positioning wood for jobs that started in, late this year and through the first quarter of next year. I mean, I know personally, I had, 4 or 5 guys that their developers bought warehouses to ship the lumber into so that they would have the wood for 2022. But I mean, my other side of this, I told Ashley this early this morning, I still amazed at the number of, lumber yards that are looking, on December 29th, or, hey, where's this truck that's due, like, in the first 2 weeks in January?
Yeah,
So
Craig. Some
it
people are
blows me
putting,
away.
some people are putting wood on the ground at all these places too because they're afraid of logistical issues, right? They
Right.
need the wood there and they need to ship prompt. And to Kip's point and to yours, hey, if you would have told me the market was going to be here 2 months ago, I would have not believed it. So I mean, the market's already moved up to a high area. I mean, and something has to stop going up before it could go down, right? It's still, in my opinion, the market is still, the momentum is still to the upside right now, right? Um,
Absolutely.
anything
Absolutely.
anything you guys saw in futures today? I mean, we were up limit yesterday, the day before we trade. It's
And
kind
the
of
day
wild.
before.
It's
And the
kind of
day before.
it's kind of wild today. A little bit all over the place. Is it consolidating in here, trying to get a little breather?
Kip, you know, as funny as like we used to say, like the average annual move in lumber was like $130 a thousand. Now that's
Exactly.
the average weekly move.
Yeah, well, I mean, it can move that much. An item, a cash item, can move that much in a day.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, no, that
crazy.
you're right. It was for 27 years. It was the high and low of the year was $130. And well, now you're right. You can do that in a week, and we've done it several times here.
Well, hopefully everybody got a little bit of good information here, Kip. I appreciate you coming on the show, and if you're interested,
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
yeah, if you're
Appreciate it.
interested, we're gonna have you as a regular guest on here because literally this is no BS. I've had a lot of people say, "Have you talked to Kip recently? You should have Kip on your show," and all that kind of stuff. So
So
look at
so Kip was brought on because of like, you know, crowdsourcing. We need some Kip.
no,
Everybody needs a little Kip.
Kip was brought on because he called me the other day and said and wondered how I paid for my hairpiece. And I and I sat there for a second and I'm like, I love that guy, man. Like we don't talk for like a year and he doesn't miss a beat.
Oh, that's
So listen,
awesome.
Kip, I do appreciate it, man. So
Yep.
have a great New Year's and we'll look forward to talking to you in the new year.
Hey,
Absolutely.
Kip, and I'm
Thanks
going
for
to
having me.
circle back to you, and you know, so we can catch up on some other stuff here along the way here.
Hey,
Good to see you,
well,
brother.
just one, yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Kip.
Okay. Thanks,
All right.
guys.
Yep.
Cheers.